Economic growth on the horizon for next decade, International Monetary Fund predicts. The International Monetary Fund has released its economic growth forecast for the next 5 years, and the outlook is promising. According to the report, the global economy is expected to grow by an average of 3.5% between 2023 and 2028. This growth rate is up from the 2.7% average in the previous 5-year period. In this video, we'll discuss the International Monetary Fund's predictions, what they mean for the global economy, and why this increase in growth is a positive sign. The global economy. According to the International Monetary Fund, economic growth is expected to continue in the next decade. The organization predicts that the global economy will expand at an average annual rate of 3.5% between 2023 and 2028. This is a moderate improvement from the 3.2% growth rate of the previous decade. The International Monetary Fund points to several factors that will contribute to this growth, including the continued recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, high interest rates, and the expansion of trade and investment. However, the organization also notes that there are significant risks to the outlook, including geopolitical tensions and climate change. Despite these challenges, the International Monetary Fund remains cautiously optimistic about the global economic outlook. As the world continues to recover from the pandemic, there is potential for continued growth and development in the years ahead. China. The world's second-largest economy, China, is expected to continue to grow in the next decade. According to the International Monetary Fund, the country's GDP growth rate is projected to reach 5.6% on average from 2023 to 2028, a decline from the 6.8% it averaged between 2013 and 2019. This slower growth rate reflects the country's ongoing economic transition from a manufacturing-driven economy to one that is more service-oriented. The International Monetary Fund notes that China's shift towards a more consumer-driven economy is crucial to its long-term economic sustainability. The country has made significant progress in this direction, with domestic consumption accounting for more than half of China's economic growth in recent years. Additionally, the country's expanding middle class is driving demand for goods and services, especially in the services sector, which is expected to continue growing in the coming years. However, China still faces significant economic challenges, including high levels of debt and slowing productivity growth. Moreover, the country's ongoing trade tensions with the United States pose a significant risk to its economic outlook. If these tensions escalate further, they could negatively impact global trade and investment, which would in turn slow China's economic growth. Nonetheless, China's massive domestic market and ongoing economic reforms provide reasons to be optimistic about the country's long-term economic prospects. The United States. According to the International Monetary Fund's recent economic growth predictions, the United States is expected to experience moderate growth over the next decade. The International Monetary Fund projects that the U.S. economy will expand by an average of 2.2% per year between 2023 and 2028, driven by robust consumer spending, increased investment in infrastructure, and continued growth in the service sector. However, there are also some challenges that the U.S. economy may face in the coming years, including increasing public debt, trade tensions, and an aging population. Despite these challenges, the U.S. remains the world's largest economy and has significant economic and political influence globally. The recent fiscal stimulus measures adopted by the Biden administration are expected to boost consumer spending and investment, which could help support economic growth in the coming years. In addition, the U.S. remains a key driver of innovation and technology development, which has the potential to generate new economic opportunities and contribute to global economic growth. Overall, the International Monetary Fund's economic growth projections for the United States over the next decade are positive, although there are still some challenges that the country will need to navigate to sustain its growth trajectory. Europe. The International Monetary Fund also predicts that Europe will experience moderate economic growth between 2023 and 2028, averaging around 1.6% per year. This is largely due to the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and continued support from government stimulus measures. However, the International Monetary Fund warns that some challenges could derail this outlook. One of the main risks is the uncertainty surrounding Brexit and its potential impact on trade and investment in the region. Additionally, there is a possibility of increased geopolitical tensions, which could lead to trade disputes and market volatility. Nonetheless, the International Monetary Fund believes that Europe is well positioned to weather these risks and maintain steady growth in the coming years. Japan. Japan is one of the largest economies in the world, and the International Monetary Fund predicts that its economic growth will be moderate between 2023 to 2028. However, Japan faces several structural challenges that may impede its growth potential. The country has a rapidly aging population, which puts pressure on its healthcare and pension systems. Additionally, the country has struggled with deflationary pressures for many years, which can limit growth. To address these challenges, the Japanese government has pursued several policy measures, such as increasing public investment in infrastructure and implementing structural reforms to increase labor market flexibility. While these measures may help boost growth in the short term, the International Monetary Fund cautions that more needs to be done to address the structural issues facing Japan if the country is to maintain sustained economic growth over the long term. Emerging markets. While the global economic landscape will see steady growth, emerging markets will likely experience even more pronounced progress. These countries have long been key drivers of growth, and the International Monetary Fund predicts that they will continue to lead the way over the next decade. Countries such as India, Indonesia, and Mexico are predicted to grow at an average rate of 4.9% per year between 2023 and 2028. This represents a significant uptick in growth, especially when compared to developed countries like the United States and Japan, which are expected to grow at an average rate of 1.9% and 0.5% respectively during the same period. Some of the key drivers behind emerging market growth are their burgeoning middle classes, large youth populations, and expanding infrastructure networks. As more people enter the middle class, they will have more disposable income to spend, which in turn will fuel economic growth. However, while emerging markets are poised for success, there are also potential challenges to keep in mind. Many of these countries are heavily dependent on commodity exports, which can leave them vulnerable to price fluctuations. Additionally, political instability and social unrest can threaten economic progress. Nonetheless, the International Monetary Fund's outlook for emerging markets is optimistic. As these economies continue to mature and diversify, they will likely become even more important players in the global economy. Risks to the outlook. While the International Monetary Fund predicts economic growth over the next decade, some risks could potentially hinder or even derail that growth. One of the most pressing risks is the ongoing trade tensions between the United States and China. This trade war has caused economic uncertainty and instability, with both countries imposing tariffs on each other's goods. The International Monetary Fund warns that the continuation of these tensions could negatively impact global economic growth. Another risk to the outlook is the increasing levels of debt across the world, particularly in emerging markets. As interest rates rise, these countries could struggle to repay their debts, leading to economic turmoil and instability. Additionally, geopolitical risks such as political unrest, natural disasters, and conflicts can also have a significant impact on the global economy. The COVID-19 pandemic is a prime example of how unexpected events can cause economic shocks and disrupt supply chains. Finally, the International Monetary Fund warns that rising income inequality could hurt economic growth. As the gap between the rich and poor widens, it could lead to social unrest and political instability, further exacerbating economic risks. Overall, while the International Monetary Fund predicts economic growth over the next decade, it is important to remain vigilant and address potential risks to ensure sustainable and inclusive economic growth. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoy this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.